and welcome to Happy You Asked, the podcast where we explore a little thing called happiness, one awkward conversation at a time. And I'm your host, Erin Clare, who is currently broadcasting from New England, waiting for a nor'easter to arrive. Like I'm Louisa May Alcott. I'm gonna get a cape on. I'm gonna, batten down the hatches or whatever we do. I don't even know what we do. I don't know. I am joined today by Dr. Carolyn Hackerott, known to me as Hack. She is a professor in disaster resilience and emergency management at North Dakota State University, where it's also so warm. And she teaches courses there in disaster response and how to handle catastrophes, among other things. She's worked in higher education since 1989, first as a sports nutritionist and then as a director of residential life, before earning her PhD in emergency management from Oklahoma State University in 2016. She's published multiple articles in the Journal of Homeland Security and Emergency Management and the Journal of Emergency Management, and has given talks around the nation on the subject. Hack, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Hi.
Hi, it's
I
so
love
good
the
to
purple
be
hair.
here. Oh,
So good to
thank
see
you.
you.
You know, it's purple, but I felt pretty personally attacked by Kid Rock recently. You know, yeah. Oh, you didn't.
I didn't know. I know nothing. I seriously live in a bubble.
Oh,
My kids were shocked because I didn't know what was in the Epstein files recently.
oh,
And they're like, how did you
oh,
not know? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't No,
no.
what Kid Rock do?
Apparently, he went on some news show. Other people were sending me this clip. And he said something about the girl or the women, the chicks. I'm sorry, it was chicks with blue hair and nose rings on campus. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I don't know what I
Well,
know
I
about
don't think
them,
he's an
but
expert in anything, so I
yeah,
don't care what he says.
I do have some ideas on what he might be expert in, but it's not suitable for public consumption.
So, heck, I ask everybody the same question. What is your definition of happiness?
You know, I expected this question,
Yeah,
so I did.
I always have like the same beginning and ending. The middle,
Okay.
who knows?
And so I really did some soul searching, and what I discovered is I have an operational or a working definition of what happiness is. And it's more about perspective than a formal definition. I
Mm-hmm.
think happiness reflects where you are in your life and your general approach to your life and how you manage it and what you value.
Mm.
So, what made me very happy when I was 25 is different than what it is today.
In
So,
what way would you say? What was different in 25 when you were 25?
well, first of all, at 25, although I was the mother of two, was married, already had I had a wonderful job with the athletic department at the University of Oklahoma, had advanced degrees. Um, I was so busy
Mm.
getting through a day, day to day to day. And while I was perfectly happy, you know, um, I wonder how I did it looking
Mm.
backwards. And so as I've aged, I've learned how to slow down, which was a real achievement for me. To slow down and appreciate the little things
Mm.
and the people around me.
Yeah.
It wasn't all about to-do lists and accomplishments anymore.
Mm.
So yeah,
I've been
achievement.
thinking about that physically quite a bit because I've been going through the change. And yeah,
Which one?
yeah,
No,
one
I'm
of the
teasing.
many changes. This one hormonal,
Yes.
and it's almost as if the human body, in some ways, at least the woman's body, I don't know about another one, will force you to slow down later. Because I think about how energy shifts as we
Yes.
get older, and the fact that I used to get up and before work would run 3 miles. Before before the work, I did that. What with what energy did I
Yeah.
accomplish? The thought of that now, it's like I need to get up and make myself a cup of coffee. That's my goal, right? So I
Yes,
get it.
yes, indeed. And as an exercise physiologist, I'm all about the workouts and everything. But yeah, the running and well, that's gone. My knees screamed at me. But I went through the change after a hysterectomy
Mm,
when I was 27.
That young.
So
Wow.
yeah, it was really young but it what I remember was, oh my gosh, I should have done this when I was 12 because
I don't recommend it at 48. It's a lame time for it.
okay. Well, I had endometriosis, severe
Mm,
endometriosis. Having children was a real struggle, but I had no idea of the discomfort and the pain
mm,
that I was managing on a day to day until
mm,
it was all gone. And it was like, oh, so I know some women really struggle with some of the side effects. I had an aggressive doctor.
mm.
I've never had a hot flash. I know, I've never had a night sweat.
Oh,
I never had the emotional swings that
oh,
come
they're
along
awful.
with, because he really took things seriously and started me
Oh,
on hormone management, and I've never looked back. So yeah,
good.
I've
That's a
there's
sad
hope
story with a
regardless.
good ending.
Yes, it's a perfect edit.
So, you work in an area emergency management that doesn't seem happy. That's not a happy place. How do you think happiness factors into this? Since you're dealing with like some of the worst things that could happen, you're teaching
Yeah.
people how to deal with this.
Yes. I have to tell you, I always go back no matter where I'm speaking and who I'm speaking with. I just did a Midwest Energy Summit where I was talking to utility and extraction folks. Um, I am so fortunate. I get to see the best of humanity when other people
Mm,
are having the absolute worst days of their lives,
mhm,
because that's who we are at our core. Are there bad humans? Yes, there are bad humans with bad behavior, but for most of us, this need to connect and to help and to support, it overrides it. Evolutionary
mhm.
anthropologists would tell you it's in our DNA, and it's why we were able to populate every corner of the earth. I agree with that. It really overwhelms you when you're out there. So when you are reminded of the goodness in others, it it reinforces your
Mm.
faith, your hope, your your spirit, your
No, that makes total
everything.
sense. I never thought
Yeah.
of it like that. Yes, I mean, who do you want when there's horrible things? People who are
Yeah.
trained to go help and make it better. Yeah,
Well, it's
100%. That makes
actually,
sense.
yeah, you want those responders. You do. You absolutely do. But it's really about our neighbors. And
Mm,
all of a sudden, who's a neighbor, who's our
mm,
family changes. It's not, your neighbors are not sharing an address or a zip code. I tell my students, you need to be prepared for that random woman sitting on her couch in Cleveland with her two cats to see something on the news and know that she needs to show up in Oklahoma City and help. And
yeah,
you have to
yeah.
be ready for that, because the world shrinks when there's disasters and catastrophes. We
How
reach
how
out.
did you get into this field?
Um, Kind of, it's twisted. How long do you
Mm.
have? When my mother died when I was a teenager, and
Mm,
we shared a name. And so there was always Big Caroline and Little Caroline. And the phone rang after I graduated from high school, and they asked for Caroline. And I was the only one at the house. So I said it was me. Well, my mother had quite the history with the American Red Cross, and she was being invited to be trained at what at that point the Red Cross called disaster college. So at the
mm,
bright age of 18, I showed up in a room with a bunch of retirees from Iowa and Indiana and became a disaster specialist for the Red Cross, and went out on tornadoes and wildfires and hurricanes and all those things as a responder, a volunteer responder. Um, and we had a bombing in 1995 in Oklahoma City. The federal building was
mhm,
bombed, and I was deployed. I was in Norman, Oklahoma, which turned out to be very, very close to Oklahoma City when you're driven by a cop who's very motivated to get there in a hurry.
Mm.
I honestly do not believe this is an exaggeration. I'm thinking we got there between 9 and 11 minutes from, yeah, the
Wow.
north side of Norman, Oklahoma into ground zero. He was motivated, and I thought that was going to be the last day I saw on Earth, was just
Right? I was
getting
they
there.
hold on to that holy shit handle right there.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Oh
Yes, and you
no.
don't say a word. You just
It's just,
like focus on the
don't even look at
road,
the
focus
road.
on the road. And
Yeah, that's me. Like when I'm going in Uber in Boston, I don't look. Just they know what they're doing.
yeah, they know where they're going. Don't they trust the other car? Yeah. Um, and of course, when I was deployed, we thought it was a major gas line break. By the
Hmm.
time we arrived, we knew it was something much more horrible than that. And so it was the first non-disaster disaster that I responded to.
Hmm.
And I spent 30 days there. I ended up working with the governor's team. And I had always been at a university. I was always an administrator who also taught. And
Hmm.
I just knew that that was I couldn't save the world by myself.
Yeah.
And I needed the rest of the world to get on board because it was a team sport. And I just decided I was working on a PhD in higher ed. And I just decided I needed to do it in disasters instead.
Hmm.
And I was fortunate, Oklahoma State University, right down the road, offered a PhD, a doctorate in that. And I ended up, after we wrapped up, pursuing that. So
Yeah.
that's how I ended
Well,
up
I know,
there.
at least for me, I know that when you study and teach something that you feel is really going to help the world or is needed in the world,
Yeah.
it's easier to sleep at night.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've taught these classes at 3 universities. And I am so proud of my track record with my students. So I'm
Mhm.
like a very proud Nana.
Brag, I want to hear
Here's
it. I
not
want to hear
that.
it.
They really have. They've been out there in the private sector, the public sector, in nonprofit, and they are doing amazing things. And
What type
if
of
I
jobs
had
do they
even a
get?
small drop of that, I'm so grateful.
Well, of course. What type
Yeah.
of jobs do they get from that type of program? What are they doing?
Most of them do a lot of planning, and
Mm,
they do a lot of training of the first responders. Most are
mm,
not first responders. We will have a few that go into that, but then they typically move through first response, and they look at mitigation, and they look at recovery and preparedness. And so response, as much as it's the sexiest phase of disaster management, it's also the shortest. It's, 96 hours typically.
mm,
Um, and recovery mitigation, if we're really going to address the issues, we need to look at mitigation, and that needs to be done fairly with an eye towards justice and inclusion. And I think our students go out with an understanding of that everyone
mm.
needs a voice. This is their world, their home, and they do an amazing job with that.
Yeah, and I mean the goal, of course, is to have enough prevention to, not not have a disaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what they walk through the world thinking is, if they do their jobs right,
Mm,
we don't know how well they do it because we don't have that disaster. And certainly the disaster does not become a catastrophe
yeah,
because
yeah.
catastrophes just don't arrive. We really blow a disaster management job and create the catastrophe. We create the disasters. So,
Mm.
if I don't want to be nonchalant about this, but if we're really committed to screwing it up, we can get to a catastrophe. You can
Oh
look
yeah.
at Hurricane Maria, you can look at Hurricane Katrina, and you can see how humans can mess it up.
Yeah, take a disaster and it becomes a catastrophe. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes a
we're
lot of
just
sense.
not satisfied with, one level of destruction. We need to bump it up. Yeah.
But yeah, I think about for happiness, when we really look at happiness, the thing that goes against it the most is fear, right?
Yes.
That's really one of the ways that people just harm their own happiness, and they do it in a myriad of ways, from doom scrolling to all these different things, consuming social media. So it's hard though because we need preparedness,
Hmm.
but we also don't want to live in fear. What's that line, do you think?
I think it's different for all of us. I think you go back to someone's level of agency
Mm.
and belief in their own self-efficacy,
Hmm.
because we can make a change. We can reduce impacts. And folks need to be empowered. My mom used to tell us, don't borrow trouble.
Yeah, I like that.
Deal with what you can, control what you can, and be realistic about what you can control. And so that's the approach that's
Are
most
there ways
successful.
to make like how do we define what is a realistic fear? I'm thinking about like preppers, right? So like I'm preparing, I'm being smart here, but it's not a
Right,
realistic fear, right? So
right.
how do we how do we train? How do we know what is realistic to prepare for and what is not?
Well, we have a thing in my field that's called high probability or low probability, and then we have high impact, low impact, right?
Mm,
So most people who, I don't want to call them irrational, but would latch onto a high impact, low probability event.
okay.
The day after tomorrow.
Mm,
Most of your disaster movies are based on those things. It's not so much the reality or the potential of an event, it's the anxiety that we nurture around it.
oh
And
yes, yes.
yeah, that's how we get into that hyper prepper mindset. Nothing that they do is necessarily wrong. It may be unnecessary, but it's not wrong.
It's not harming anybody
Typically not,
typically. I mean directly.
there
Yeah,
are
no, now that I think about it,
some.
but
But yeah, within range, I think of some of the stockpiling of very
yeah,
dangerous things as
yeah.
probably not good.
Then you're creating the potential for another disaster.
Right. And I I think there are people with fragile psyches who
Mhm.
are battling different forms of mental illness, that when you nurture that anxiety and that worry, I think it can trigger some other things.
Mhm.
And that's when we really need to be concerned. And we need to be concerned on a human level,
Mhm.
with that. Uh, Natural fear is know what the threats are and the risks, and be realistic about those risks in your area. You're in Boston, right?
Yeah, yeah, right now, yeah.
I would say that what you have as a risk in Boston looks a lot different than what I have as a risk in
Yeah,
Fargo.
or Risk in Russellville, Arkansas. They look a little different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very different. And so we need to prepare for that which we need to face,
Mm.
right?
Well, yeah, and I really think it's that like, is it realistic or is it just anxiety? And I think that seems to be right. Like,
Yeah, that I think that's the line. And you talked about doom scrolling and conspiracy theories and
mm,
things like that. And I think that's really dangerous. I think we are all at this point of overload walking a very fine line between staying informed, taking action on what we believe we need to take action on, and for lack of a better word, losing our minds.
oh yeah, just
You know?
losing our ever loving shit. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line. Like sort of like, my anxiety with flying. It's irrational. It's safer. I know all this stuff, right? And so the anxiety shouldn't get in the way, right? And the
Mhm.
minute I let it, then I'm letting that fear of a disaster, which is not likely to happen, get in my way of my life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that seems to be the line. Is it getting in the way in a way that does not make sense, is not rational?
Absolutely. And then your point of control would be if it is such a fear that you are miserable and you just absolutely cannot, then you can choose to travel a different way,
Yeah.
right? That's your point of control because once you step onto that plane, you have sacrificed control. And I think people like me who like control, I like to know what's
Same.
going on. Uh, it's it's more difficult for us to
Yeah.
manage when we get to the point of anxiety. And
I
so,
wonder too if it's not an issue with trust, which I also, have lots of those. And what am I not trusting that a pilot who's, all of them, almost all of them worked for the military for years. What am I going to fly that plane? I don't know how to do that. So
exactly.
I had to develop trust for experts to be experts in their field. And I think
Yeah,
that's might be one of the ways that anxiety gets out of control is when we don't trust other people to do their jobs. We feel like we
absolutely.
have to control everything, and we can't. I can't. I don't want to even fly a plane. I don't want to know it.
No. And I think you've probably hit on something with the folks who have the irrational fear.
Hmm.
And I think the more we destroy our scientific frameworks and our belief in expertise and
And government leadership and things like
chip
that, and not trusting
and
them.
our faith and trust in institutions and dare I say it, facts.
Yeah.
I think we are welcoming in an age of hyper anxiety and
Mhm.
a feeling of loss of control. And we need to get back to our agency and our self efficacy and rebuild that trust. And
100%. Because if we can't trust people to take care of us when there is a disaster, we can't trust our government to do the right thing.
exactly.
Yes, that breeds anxiety. It's like, oh,
Yes,
who's going to
yeah.
take care of me if they won't? Because that's their job too.
And for a lot of folks, and I think it's especially true of anyone who's in a nurturing caretaking role, which still tends to be women, right? When you are feeling responsible for the generations on either side of you at the same
Mhm.
time, I think that it's even easier to believe that no one else is going to be there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No one's going to help them.
No
And that
one's
was, I
going.
can tell you that my flying anxiety was worse when my kids were little. Um,
Oh,
yeah, because I knew, well, if I die, this is gonna be really hard on my kids and really awful. And it was all irrational, but it was also based in that fear, like you were talking about. We worry about who we have to take care of and be responsible for, in addition to ourselves, if we're
yeah.
caretakers. Yeah, 100%.
And I always wonder when someone says that they have this irrational fear of anything is what was it that first triggered that? Did you was
Nine
it was
11 for me. It was 9/11.
okay. All
Yeah.
right.
And I didn't realize that till later. Like I didn't
Okay.
realize and put it together until seeing that repeatedly, which is hey, on topic here,
Yes.
seeing it repeatedly on the screen triggered something in me that said this is not a safe experience.
Okay. I totally understand that. And
Yeah.
I am just older than you,
Mm.
actually.
My like
Yeah. Oh. I'm going to run with that. I'm not going to argue, but
yeah, just
yeah,
yeah.
I had a flying history, I think,
Mhm.
that had taught me trust and faith. So I did not have that reaction, even
Mhm.
though I was watching the same things that you were. And so that's context, right?
Yeah.
Each one of us has, I tell, I tell my students that don't, we all have a suitcase, don't pretend you understand what somebody else's baggage really is.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
all have a
We all
suitcase.
have it. I'm not ashamed of it because I everybody's got it's not bad considering.
I
Um,
have a matching set. I
yeah,
have the
exactly.
carry-on, I have the
100%. And think about that. The other thing that was in combination with the fear of flying, and this is so Gen X, the Challenger explosion,
the
which
what?
the Challenger explosion, which everyone in my generation, if you were in elementary school during that time, they all gathered us in a room to watch the Challenger take off.
Mhm.
and it exploded live, and then we went right back to school. They're like,
Yeah. Let's
yeah,
conjugate verbs in Spanish. Yeah.
awful,
Yeah. Now,
awful.
see, I forgot you were Gen X too, because I'm Gen X.
Hmm. Yeah,
Now,
I
I
was in
think I'm
elementary school.
geriatric and you might be not geriatric Gen X. But I can remember coming home from biochem lab and being
Mm,
so excited to watch that. And now I study it, right? Because it not it was not a disaster
mm,
in terms of what we clinically define disaster as, but it was definitely a collective emergency.
yeah.
And yeah, it was horrifying. And I was pregnant with my first child.
Oh.
And I remember sitting on that sofa and watching it in just absolute horror, going through all the stages, right? I didn't just see that.
Mm,
What is going on? The horrifying, the horrified response of the news folks who were, and how they had to try and pull away. But
mm,
again, I as we study it now in my field, we look at how we call it crowdsourcing now, but
mm,
how the public went out and found those horrible little pieces of that shuttle
mm,
so that the scientists, the experts could reconstruct and figure out what went wrong and take steps to make sure it never happened again.
yeah.
And as horrifying as that was,
Yeah.
I can always go back to, yeah, those Texas ranchers who went out into those fields and scoured them and found, pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and I think every generation, every group is shaped by different tragedies and disasters that we go through, because that's just the human experience when we're
yes.
together. And
Mhm.
it is what it is. And when the stories that are told during and after, I think really shape who we will be.
They did.
Yeah. So if it came to like the stories after, say, 9/11, right, of the
Mhm.
people working, if we focus on that as opposed to the actions themselves, that shapes us in two different ways, right? And
Right.
who we want to be as a people, who we are as a generation, and all of that. And even as a family, how you talk to your kids, the people around you after disasters, right? What
Right.
do you talk about? The disaster itself, or what can we do to fix it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And uh, there's a wonderful researcher, Dr. Lori Peak. She happens to be the director at the Natural Hazard Center at the University of Colorado Boulder. But she wrote a book called Backlash as
Mm,
her doctoral project. And it looked at the Islamic um, backlash against
mm,
the Muslim community following 9/11, and how I think it is human nature to try and find someone to blame
yeah, it
because
is.
it
It's what we
helps.
do.
Yeah, well, we're sense making, right? And
Hmm.
if we can lay blame, I think though as humans, we also tend to not go far enough with that. I think we stop at the first easy point of
Hmm.
blame, right? We don't ask, well, what was it that contributed to that?
Well, I remember,
And
you're right. I remember thinking exactly the question we weren't asking at the time is, why would someone want to do this to us?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
What was our part?
yes. And that's not to say it was our fault.
No,
It was
no.
just an acknowledgement of, in order for this not to happen again, we
Yes.
need to take a holistic view.
Yeah, understand all the components that went into it.
Yes, yes. This was much greater than a small group of
Mhm.
individuals filled with hate and isolation and anger who created that situation.
Yeah.
Um, And we do that with industrial um, issues, the BP
Oh,
deep
yes,
fries
oil
and,
spills,
you
things like
know,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's really easy and deservedly so to take a look at BP, right?
Yeah.
And they did a whole lot of things wrong um, afterwards, during, before. But we also have to understand what were the factors that allowed them to get to that point.
Yes. Why wasn't there, why is there dependency that puts them in this place where they have to sort of cut
Exactly.
corners because there's such a demand? Yes. And I always think, human beings are human beings everywhere and
Yes.
throughout history and time. And so if it's human being in another place, time is super duper angry, I'm going to treat them like I think of them as like I would myself. Why are they so angry? Like what's going on to make them not like another whatever?
Right.
Because they're a human being just like I am. So I like to understand then why they feel that way. Because would I feel that way in the same situation?
Yeah.
And that way I
Yeah.
can back and understand the solution then.
And I know that there are humans who are much better humans than me and
Same.
can subvert their own needs and desires and fears and can do amazing things beyond and above what is
Mhm.
best for them. They're not self-serving. I think
Yeah.
I think most humans would love to get to the point where they are not self-serving.
No, I think you're
You know,
happier if one
and
is
I
not
think some of us
self-serving.
are better at getting there than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I know. Sometimes that sort of like progression of people who can do that, it makes me think, huh, maybe this sort of like trying multiple lives, right? And trying to get it right.
yeah,
There might be something to it.
yeah, that philosophy makes a lot of sense when I think about that. And I remember being in a philosophy class, and I actually think it was philosophy and ethics taught at the high school level. Now, talk
Wow,
about
they
a
had
course
that.
that would not be taught today,
I know. That sounds
but
amazing.
I know it really was because this particular teacher was an amazing teacher. And I remember talking about altruism and
Mhm.
self-actualization and getting to the point where can self-sacrifice for others. And this particular teacher said, I can think of only 5 humans who really get to that point. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, oh, wow. And of course, came up with some really fabulous, Gandhi, um,
Mhm.
Christ, uh,
Mhm.
Abraham Lincoln, so, okay. And unfortunately, they died, right? That was their ultimate sacrifice. I don't think we have
Mhm.
to get there in order to serve others.
There's
But
a range. We don't
yeah,
have to be at the very end. We can also screw up a little bit too and be selfish jerks a little bit, and that's okay.
yeah, yeah. And mm, selfishness, I think, gets a bad rap because
Sometimes it's needed.
yeah, self-care can be
Hmm.
interpreted as selfishness if it inconveniences someone else, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
I
that's the
think
key.
that's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I think that might be related to happiness too.
definitely. You have to because people who self-sacrifice nonstop, and they don't have any self-care, and they end up being jerks because they're
Oh, yeah.
miserable.
And when you know that they've reached that level, when all of a sudden the need to be a martyr,
Yeah.
to be known as the martyr. Um, I I married into a family who had a matriarch, and had is the operative word here, who came from a generation where her value, her self-value, she measured in terms of what can I sacrifice?
Mhm.
And as much as we loved all the things she did for us and gave to us through her service to us, by the end of her life, she was not a happy human. And
Mhm.
I go back to that. We loved her dearly. I do not
Yes.
want to give
No,
you
I hear
the
what you're
wrong
saying because
impression. but
Because
the
then where
price
was
we
her
paid.
life? Or where was
Yeah.
her life then within that?
And I don't know. And I don't want to say she was a miserable human because that would be unfair. You
Yeah.
know, she may have internalized that measurement stick to the point where she truly did feel a reward
Mm.
from
Yeah,
that.
but in the end, something was missing, or she wouldn't have
Yeah.
been miserable. We know this,
Yeah.
right? Something was
Mhm.
missing.
Something was
Yeah.
missing. And so I
Yeah.
think you develop yourself first.
Hmm.
Take care
That's
of
why
yourself
I
first.
have this job in Boston. I was like, I don't want to look back and be a miserable piece of shit later in life because I didn't take this. Right?
Yes. Yeah,
It's,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
What's the price?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I think we do a calculation every day because,
100% on so many different things.
yeah, I've got 3 pages of to-dos because of the long holiday, which I chose to not work through, right?
Same with me. My email right now, hot mess.
Yeah. So yeah, what was the price? Did I know this was going to happen? Yes.
Do I
Did I
regret
say
it?
it
I
was
do
worth
not.
it? Yes.
I feel so much better after having taken that time away from work, and I adore my job. But
Yes.
nobody should work 24/7. Nobody.
No.
We
No.
have to be time just to be ourselves and just be like, I'm going to read this book and I'm going to just make sit in front of the fireplace or whatever it is.
Yes, whatever it is, and to reconnect. And Thanksgiving happens to be my very favorite holiday of the entire
Oh.
year. I mean, it's got all the best F's, right? It's got food, it's got football, it's got family, it's
Mhm.
got friends, and you can add any other F you want. But it gives me as an academic 4 days
Yeah.
where I can focus, see, another good F word,
Yeah.
focus on all the good things and appreciating that.
Yes, and what I love about Thanksgiving is it's mostly a homebody
Yeah,
holiday. And that's
yeah,
my favorite. I don't have to go like buy a bunch of stuff and then give it to people and go over here and go to this party. You stay at home, you eat a bunch, you nap, you eat some more, and you like watch some movies. It's ideal.
yeah, absolutely. The best. And, you know, do you remember when we went through this? It was relatively short, but the big box stores especially were opening on Thanksgiving
Oh
night
yeah, like at
to
four
start
o'clock or
Black
some like
Friday. Oh,
yeah.
that just, even as a young person, I knew that that was just wrong at the core. I'm so
Mhm.
happy that at least out here in the far upper
Same
Arctic Circle,
same
we
here.
had no Thanksgiving night shopping. And
Yes, and
they
I'm glad
stayed
that's
late.
gone too. I mean, granted, now we can all just shop at home on our phones, which is
Yes,
nicer. The
yes.
people, though, get to stay home more. And at least in Arkansas and here in New England, they're not opening those early
Yes,
nights anymore. And I'm glad because, gosh, they need to stay home and do the same thing I'm doing.
exactly. Exactly. Uh, I always I always kind of roll my eyes. I don't know what emotion it really is, but we have winter storms, right?
Mm.
We had them in Oklahoma. They tended to be ice storms down there. We have, whiteouts here. It snows horizontally here in North Dakota because we have incredible wind and a lot of snow. And then in Arkansas, the minute they forecasted freezing precipitation of
Close
anything,
everything.
everything shut down, right?
Didn't
And
matter if it
yet,
arrived or not.
and yet people get on their phones and they call for food delivery so some 15-year-old with a brand new driver's license can go out on that road.
Yeah, that's not right.
It's just not right.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's just not. Make soup.
Make your soup like everybody else. Darn
Oh,
it, you get out your crock pot, you throw whatever you got in there.
yeah,
It'll be
yeah,
fine in like
exactly.
8 hours.
And that's where preparedness comes in from the disaster perspective. You
That was one of the
know,
things I wanted to ask you is other than things like that, making sure you've always got some good soup
always.
ingredients. What are some other ways that we as a nation, as a culture can help ourselves, like be more prepared without
Okay.
running up our anxiety?
Okay. Well, first of all, people need to understand there's a science of disaster.
Mm.
We understand human behavior. We started studying this a long, long time ago. The first research article was published in 1917.
Mm.
So we have this whole body of knowledge that apparently nobody understands or reads, except for those of us who study it. And I know engineers feel the same way. I understand that. But we need we need to understand it's not if something happens, it's when. And
Yeah.
we know that. And we also know we create the disasters. And we need to take it seriously. What is are we building in flood zones? Are we creating systems where our most vulnerable are just in a cycle of increasing vulnerability through
Mm.
disaster? Are we okay with that?
Mm.
And then we need to understand that, you know, I don't want to get terribly political on this, but FEMA was created for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, is it perfect? No. Was it perfect? No. Do we need it? We still need it.
Mhm.
We need a centralized coordination for response, recovery, mitigation, and preparedness.
Mhm.
They have been chronically understaffed and underfunded. Our disaster response funds and recovery funds are thrown together like a bake sale at an elementary school.
Mm.
And we're never going to get ahead of the curve if that's what we adopt.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I was thinking you're right. We're
And
creating more disasters through that sort of structure by doing that. We actually, some like getting rid of so many FAA,
yes.
people,
Mhm.
like that's creating the disaster. And I feel that every time I fly, we have to circle more. We have to do things that are riskier because we
Yes.
just don't have enough people to watch the planes.
Right. And don't get me started on the CDC and the
Mm.
FDA, what's happening there. Um, because again, it's not when, it's or if,
Mm.
it's when are
Yeah.
we going to get another medical emergency? And we're setting ourselves up. We are in a worse position to handle a COVID type of event. And we have, I'm not trying to induce anxiety,
I was gonna
but
say you're inducing anxiety now.
there are plenty of virus things being b- across the world. We are interconnected. The globe
Yeah.
has truly shrunk, right?
Mhm.
As of November 1st, 2025, the US, just the US, has had $14 billion disasters. That's billion.
Wow.
Four of those happened, or I'm sorry, five of those happened here in the Midwest. We had
Mhm.
four tornadic events, and then we had severe storms and flooding for the fifth. So we're talking about we can reach billion-dollar disasters in places like Iowa and
Mhm.
Nebraska and rural Wisconsin and Bemidji, Minnesota and Enderlin, North Dakota. You know, oh, it's we need to take it seriously.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
that these hazard agents exist. We need to devote ourselves and make the investments in the systems and processes that make us safer.
Yeah, so things like not not just relying on making money, right? To where we
Right.
build houses. Just because we can sell the land doesn't mean we need to live on that land. That may
Right.
not be smart land. So having some oversight on where we build and not just focusing on the capitalistic machine always to be
Always.
the contributor to everything we do.
And I don't understand the mindset that our government agencies need to turn a profit.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something that the Weather Service, I don't think
It
they
doesn't need
need
to turn a
to,
profit.
no, no. And I want hurricane hunters to be funded, because you
Mm.
talk about people that I worry about their mental health. They fly planes into the
Into
eyes of
freaking her. That's
hurricanes.
crazy. I watched a video of that and I was like, no, oh no, 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 wrong way.
Wrong way. Yeah, down in Arkansas, we would say they're a bit touched, right?
Exactly right. Bless their hearts. Mm.
Bless their
You've
hearts.
got the sense God gave them.
Yeah,
But we need them.
exactly.
No, you're exactly right. And this shouldn't be something that is done. It's supposed to be done for the greater good, not for the good of an individual making money, because
Right.
that's how we increase that those disasters, right? As if it's not for the right reasons that they're doing something.
Well, you're going to be, I think, probably like, oh, I wanted a sexier answer on this. But
Mm,
the key to preparedness is, do you know your neighbors?
mm, yeah.
And I don't care if you live in an apartment complex. I don't care if you live in a gated community. Can you
Mm.
name your neighbors?
The
Do
answer is no, Hack. I had to talk to them, and I don't want to. Oh my! I know it's wrong. I
you
gotta
need
know.
to, you know what? It is the holiday season.
Oh
Um,
shit! You're gonna have
and
me making cookies for people.
I was going to say, I
Oh.
make pumpkin bread and pie topping and I knock on the doors.
No, you're right. You're right. And
And
that's a message that comes in other forms of happiness that we've heard. The expert
yes,
from Harvard said, "Meet your neighbors," and I said, "I don't wanna." And she's and she is
then
right. You're
wallow
right.
in your anxiety,
That's
girl.
right.
Wallow. But research has shown that it is our social network that gets us through the worst of times, not the bottled water we have in the garage,
Yeah, you're
right?
exactly right. And I keep hearing this over and over. It's community, community, community.
Community,
Your
community.
local community, your big community, all your community. But I don't
Don't
like
let your
that
neighbors
answer.
be hungry.
I,
Don't let
I
your
don't like this
neighbors
answer though.
be houseless.
Yeah,
You
that's right.
know, I live in an area where I can't think of a more inhumane situation than being houseless in North Dakota in the
Yeah, I
winter.
can't even. How
And
could you last a night?
so there are lots of times when I say, so what have I done today?
Hmm, hmm,
You know, there are days I worry about my own grocery bill, right? My own,
hmm.
come on.
Yeah, comparatively, it's too much, right?
Yeah.
And
And
when I see
sometimes,
people sleeping in the T station because there's no place else to go.
yeah. And so there, I, other people's misery should not be the tool to make yourself feel better about your own situation,
Yeah,
but it does.
yeah, yeah.
It can.
No, and exactly right. Knowing your neighbors, knowing your community, knowing who you can lean on
Yes,
and build together what needs to be built in
yes,
times of stress, trauma. You're right. I need to do
yeah.
it. I need to go be a grown up. Oh,
Yeah, you need to be a grown up.
I hate being a
And
grown up. It sucks.
another great researcher named Natalie Baker termed a phrase called guerrilla preparedness. So I may have milk, but you have the cereal,
Hmm.
right? Um, if you really want to keep something that will help you do a lot of different things in a disaster, one bag, uno, bag of clumping kitty litter
Oh yeah,
and a 5-gallon bucket.
yeah, that will do a lot.
Yeah. First of all, if you have a flooding situation, especially in areas that have basements and, those kinds of
Mm.
things, kitty litter is incredibly absorbent. Secondly, if you lose water function, you still need a toilet.
Yeah, that's the bucket. That's the
That's
bucket.
the bucket and the kitty litter.
Oh Lord,
I'm telling you, I tell everybody, get one bag of clumping kitty litter.
why?
Just
You have not calmed my anxiety in any way, shape, or form today, Hack. Now I gotta go get kitty litter in case I gotta
no,
shit in
you
my.
need to meet the neighbor that has 4 cats.
Okay, okay, there you go. That's better. All right, I like that project.
Yes.
Heck, we're already coming to the end.
Hmm,
All right, I
you're
barely
kidding.
talked to you about all the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Well, do you
Barely.
remember how we met? I thought this was kind of ironic.
Well, tech, but
It was
how?
I forced you to come to an happy hour.
Oh, that sounds about right. And I was like, I don't wanna. And then
Yeah, yeah. I was like, that was a bunch of us at the university said, okay, things are getting,
not
higher,
happy.
not happy. So we went, and to call it work, it was happy hour, and we were going to exchange
That's right. I
educational
remember
app.
Appy Hour with app.
Happy hour, yeah, with the app.
Yes.
And
And then we said,
we
screw
just
apps.
never
Let's just have a
stopped.
drink. Well, and it's great. That's community, though.
Yeah,
You were
exactly.
practicing what you preach. You're like, we need
Hmm.
community, and I'm gonna drag this, misanthrope over here. Come on, girl. Come on, it'll get out of your cave. And I'm like, no. And then it was right though. It was the right
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's the magic of high ed too,
Hmm.
because we have a lot of students who are feeling isolated and alone,
Yeah.
and for a lot of
A
reasons.
million reasons, so many reasons
Yeah.
that we can't even know
And,
necessarily.
and if, as a professor, if we can just connect,
Hmm.
and whether it's online or in person, you may be their only touch point.
Yeah.
And it's
And also, just so many people just need to hear that, hey, you're just being a human. I'm a human too. I
yeah.
have flaw. I have things that are hard, just like you do. I feel you. I see you.
Again, it's that we all have baggage. Don't imagine you know what's in my suitcase,
Yeah.
because, you know, life is going to happen.
Hmm.
Terrible things happen. I can rattle off 4 or 5 events of my life that, you know, were horrible.
Hmm.
The most recent was the loss of my youngest child.
Yeah.
And you can have bad things happen and still be a happy person.
Hmm.
Or you can choose to be a miserable person and you don't recognize when good things happen.
Yeah.
So I think,
And then what do you give out to other people when you're miserable too, right?
yeah,
You're
yeah, it's
giving
that
misery to them.
vibe, right? Yeah. And so we, I love the fact when you say energy, because I
Mm.
think we're all giving out energy and we're all sucking it in too.
Yeah, we are.
And if you're pushing out enough positive, it can neutralize the negative that might be coming at you. To go
It
back
really
to
does. It makes
physics.
a difference. It makes a huge difference. Like when I am being miserable just
Hmm.
because of how I woke up, a million reasons, doesn't matter.
Right.
Then misery comes back to me because that's what I'm giving out.
Yeah.
I'm giving, and they just reflect back. Everybody's like, and yeah, screw you too.
Yeah.
When I switch that, even if I'm like, all right, things aren't great, I'm going to notice beautiful things, right? Then that starts coming back to me. And it's not easy, but it works that way. It really does.
I got into the habit as a young professional of being able to close my office door, crank up some 1980s true punk music, and dance it out. I
Hmm.
don't know where that came from, but I still do it today.
I do
And
it every
sometimes
single
it's
day.
funny.
Every day I do that in a different way. Either it's in the morning when I'm getting ready, at night when I'm like getting down for bed, wherever. But it
Yeah.
has to happen every day. And I call it like, get out my BS.
Yes.
Get
Yeah.
it out so I don't give it away.
See, and I know you're a yoga person. I have
Yeah.
tried yoga so many times. I cannot do yoga. I begin to laugh because I'm in a position that is so
It's
ridiculous
ridiculous. Yeah.
that
You should take it
I'm
with me
like,
because that's what I do is I will laugh through it. I'll be like, and look at yourself now. Look how silly this is. Look at this
I've been
shape.
kicked out of multiple yoga classes
We
because,
probably have a ball then.
oh my gosh, I walked my first one, I was a fitness instructor and I had a dear friend who was the yoga instructor and she finally talked me into coming. And so I walk in and she starts lighting candles. I knew I was in trouble. I'm like, what on earth is happening here? And then, of course, it was downward facing dog. Who named these things? Is the second thing I'm dying to ask. But when she called us on that, the woman in front of me, I mean, had just let loose with, just, and
Mhm.
I fell out of the position because I was laughing so hard.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Teresa just looked up at me and pointed
Yes.
to the
Get the hell
door.
out. Look at you.
Just
Yeah.
get
And
out.
get out.
And I
Get
was
out.
like, I hadn't been farted at
Right in your face too, man.
right in my face. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. This is,
Yeah, I gotta go.
and
Someone farted on me. That's it. I'm out. Peace. Yeah.
yeah, peace out.
It
So,
honestly doesn't happen that much, the farting. It really doesn't.
okay. But yeah, and I just know what I must look like to the outside world. And I guess I'm shallow enough to go, oh, this is not the position I want immortalized.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
I
Okay.
need you to add a song to the Happy US playlist.
One way or another.
Oh, I love it.
Blondie.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Blondie.
Yeah.
I love it.
That or Higher Ground
Which
by
version?
Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, okay. That's also
Yeah.
one that I adore. Actually, you're getting both of them.
Yeah. You know, Eric Clapton's version was great until Eric Clapton. And then right now I just can't.
Yeah. One or another and High Ground. Both fantastic songs.
Okay. Well, that would be my song.
Yeah, I got that
So
written
what
down.
was your first song?
Oh, I
You haven't
haven't
come up
picked
with a
one.
song.
I haven't put one on. It's only been the guests. And every time I think to myself, aha, you don't have to pick one because this is too hard. And it's like I have like 30. If I started adding, the list would be all these are Aaron's. So none of them on there are mine.
Well, if you've got folks who are listening who don't want, the more rock or bluesy kinds of things, try Mozart's Pastoral.
Oh.
Yeah. Or Ode to
Ooh.
Joy.
Yeah, that one's nice too.
Those are nice too. And
Yeah,
sometimes that's what you need.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, heck, I love you so much. I
I
love
love
talking to you. I
you.
love seeing you. I love hearing about what you do. And I love, love, love the idea of what you do is focus on the people who come and help and the
Yeah.
good people. You get to see them. That makes me feel so good. Look for the helpers. What is
I was
that?
going to say, Mr.
Look for the helpers.
Rogers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We all need a patron saint, and I'm happy
He,
to make Fred
I'm happy to have
Rogers.
him be one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fred Rogers.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And I hope to see you all soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.